Welcome back to the 6610 YouTube channel. So today's going to be part one of our sales AI agent build out. Today we're going to build out a sales AI agent that can analyze lead websites and give us a summary in a CSV spreadsheet that we could later on use for prospecting or writing cold emails or writing client specific messaging in general. So very powerful tool for sales and marketing folks here. All right. So let's talk about our objectives and goals for this sales AI agent. So this AI agent is going to integrate with HubSpot to pull in a list of leads, and it's going to identify their websites from their email address and then analyze it and give us a summary. So we have about 5 different goals here that we hope to achieve with the AI agent on this video. And at the end of the video, you will find a link down below in the description for a GitHub repo that contains all of the code that we generated on this video. So feel free to use it. It's free for you to use and edit and customize to your needs. So number one here are goals for the AI agent. So we're going to retrieve all lead records from an existing list. Like I said, I'm going to integrate this with HubSpot. This can be done with any major CRM that's out there in the marketplace today. Next up, we're going to extract website domains from the email addresses. Then we're going to analyze each site to determine what the company does. We're going to generate a brief description of each company based on the analysis. And lastly, we're going to compile the results into a CSV export for ease of use and access. All right. So let's dive into it. A couple important links to have. I am going to build this out. So I'm a developer by trade, but I know AI is all the rage, and we are going to build this out using an AI IDE. So AKA a code editor. So we picked out here Cursor. You can go to cursor.com to download this and set this up on your end. This can be written in many programming languages. I'm going to do it in Node.js. So that's going to require us installing NPM, which is the Node Package Manager. Essentially just lets us, install libraries and different things on the projects. I'm sure we're going to need to use it for things like Axios, for example. Then after that, we have the OpenAI platform and we have HubSpot. So on NPM, you're going to go to the NPM website. I'll have all these links down below in the description. You can run a couple commands and download a installer, and you should be good to go to use the packages that we're going to be using in this video on your own. Next up, we have OpenAI. So you're going to need to have a OpenAI account with billing information tied to it and some balance to it. So we're going to go up here to the settings. We're going to hit API keys, and we're going to end up creating an API key here. So all you have to do is give it an API key name, select the project, and for right now, we'll do no restrictions just to make our lives a little bit easier. You also need to make sure that you go into the billing side and ensure that you have a credit balance to be able to use the AI through OpenAI. We're going to use the 4.0 mini model because that's the most cost-effective one at the moment, and it should work well for our use case here. So that should save us some money while accomplishing our goals. And last but not least, we're going to have HubSpot. So I built out a list here. Lists are a feature in almost all the major CRM players. So this concept can be used in many different areas. In this example here, we're going to use HubSpot. I have a couple sample ones, and I put in a John Doe record as well, but this is my list. The next thing you're going to have to do is come into your settings. So once you hit the gear icon at the top here, you could go to integrations, then you'll hit private apps, and you'll create a private app. So when you create a private app, it will look something like this. I'm going to pull up an existing one. You can give it any name you want. This is up to you. And you're going to give it a description. Then you're going to come into the scopes and ensure that you have these 3 scopes listed out. So when you come into add scopes, you're going to have to make sure you do crm.lists.read, for example, and add that in. And you'll have to do it for these 3 because these are going to be important to be able to pull the list and the contact details that we need. Once you do that, you'll get an API key, and ensure to save that. If you run into errors because of the scope, you could come into the private apps and open up your private app, and then you'll see here there's API call recent errors section. If you view all, I ran a couple tests yesterday, you'll see that they return to us what scopes we are missing. So in this example here, when I was running it, I left out these two scopes, and it said that I am missing the CRM schemas context read and the CRM objects context read. So all that means is the API failed because I didn't have the right scope, had to go back, edit it, and do it. So you may run into that. Just keep an eye on these logs. Important. All right, so let's dive into it. So first things first, I am going to pull up the terminal. So this is the way I like to work. There are many different ways to do this. Every developer has their own method to the madness, but this is the way that I operate. So I'm going to go into terminal here, and I'm going to make a directory, and we'll call it Sales AI Agent Integration 1, for example. Then I'm going to go into that in file, and I'm going to hit code I, and that will open for me a brand new instance of my cursor code editor. And this is where we're going to do all of our work, or the most of our work, I should say. So first things first, we are in that file directory that we created. On the left side here, you'll see all the files within your file directory project. You're going to come into here. You'll be able to see your terminal, and then if you hit on the right side pane, you will get your chat tool, which can you could ask questions and help you write code. First things first, though, we need to create a file. So we're going to create a file. We're going to do Command End, and then we're going to do Command Shift S to create the file and save it as, let's call it HubSpot lead list info. All right. Then we're going to add to it a file type. In our scenario, because we're going to do this in JavaScript and Node, we're going to do .js. But if you're doing this in Python, it's going to be .py. If you're writing PHP, .php, so on and so forth. So make sure you follow the programming language that you plan to use. All right. Now that we got that, we have our file. It should come up here, and it should be totally empty. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start writing out some of the prompts for what we want the tool to do. My advice as a senior and experienced developer and engineer, I would say try to always build out your code in chunks and test out every piece of code in chunks. That way you're able to catch and resolve issues quickly and debug a whole lot easier. If you write 1,000 lines of code and find an issue, it's going to take you a long time to find that sometimes and resolve, rather than having it chunked up into 20 lines of code at a time, ensuring that each one works and debugging effectively. That's just my 2 cents, but feel free to do it however you'd like. So first things first here, we're going to tell ChatGPT and Cursor what we want to build. So I'm going to give it a little prompt here. So I'm going to say create a Node.js script. So you got to make sure to tell it what programming language you want to use and whatever you feel most comfortable with. That connects to the HubSpot API and fetches contacts from a specific list. I will provide you with a API access key and a list ID. We are using private apps for this integration. So HubSpot has a couple different ways you can call its API, so I'm just specifying that here to try to save us some of the trouble and make sure it outputs good code. That's why research and knowledge is important, so try to do research ahead of time. That will just help you with your prompt writing and ensure that you're getting the best code right off the bat, or better version, I should say. Then I'm just going to say for now, for testing purposes, just console log the data for me. In the console log, include, or let's say only display the email and contact first name and last name. Alrighty. So that is going to generate some code for us. So right off the bat, it is explaining to us what the code does and everything there. It's going to tell us sometimes to install a package, which is why that npm install step, very important. This case here, it's asking us to install Axios. Axios is a library that allows us to make API calls. So I'm going to go ahead here. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to put this into my terminal. I'm going to hit enter. And that is going to load up here. All right. So now we basically have that installed. And then I'm going to come here. We have some code written out by the AI here. We're going to hit apply to HubSpot file. So it basically inputted all the code it generated into our file directly. Now it's up to us to come in here and update some of our records. So you should have grabbed your API key from when you were creating that private app. You're going to come in here and you're going to grab it. I'm just going to grab mine from my notepad. And I'm going to throw that into here. Boom. And then list ID. So if you come into the lists and you hit details, on the bottom here, they have an API integration section, which is great. All you got to do is come, click copy list ID. And then if we go back to cursor, we will put that in here. So in my case, it's 1. In your case, maybe something different. And then essentially, if you want to eyeball and look at the code, just to explain it real quick, we're making an API call to this API here. We are getting the response via the Axios package, and then we are looping through the contacts and getting the email, first name, and last name to be ultimately console logged. So let's see if that worked. So to run the code, we're going to do node, and then we're going to write HubSpot -lead list-info.js. So basically just write node and your file name. You call the file whatever you want, just make sure you do node and file name. So I'm going to hit enter. So we got an error. This HAPI key doesn't exist. Okay, so once again, it did not listen to me, right? I know that this is an issue because it did not qualify that it's a private app. So I'm going to write here, update the API code to call a HubSpot private app. My API key consists of, let's just write an example, PA-1, boom. Okay. All right, so we got another version here. And let's see, okay, yes, this looks a lot better. So it's doing authorization headers, and this method should work correctly. So once again, we're gonna hit top right here, apply, and then we're gonna accept the file, and then we're gonna run this one more time. And there we go. We console logged our contact records. So if we look here, we have 3 contact records. And if I compare that to my existing list, you'll see they match. So I have Maria, Brian, and John. Look here, I got Maria, Brian, and John. All right, awesome. So we got our list. Now, let's do the next part of the script, our next goal. All right, so now that we got their names, let's start pulling the domains, okay? So from the list you retrieve from HubSpot, parse out for me the email domains and console log them. Okay, so basically I'm just saying, pull out those domains for me and parse them out to me. And it already knows that it's going to split it after the @ symbol to get us the full domain. So I'm going to hit here, apply, accept, and let's see what we get returned. So there we go. It added to my console log the domain. So we got all 3 domains there, right? So 6610.com, HubSpot.com, that is in here. All right. So we got our second objective done there. We got our domains. So next up, we got to analyze the site. So we got our domains, and now we're going to analyze the sites to try to figure out what it is that they do. Now, visit each website and provide for me a description using OpenAI 4.0 mini model to describe what the companies do. Console log those descriptions. All right. Alrighty, so now we got some code running here, and we are going to see, so we have a couple more packages we need to install. I know we installed Axios once before, but it will just skip it in this case. So it is installing Cheerio and the OpenAI package. So we're going to go ahead and install that first. All right, and then we're going to hit apply to our code as we did before. And we'll see now we have a variable for our OpenAI key. So I'm going to go ahead, grab my API key from my notes here. And you should already have this on your end. All right. I'm going to save that. I'm going to try to run this now. And we got an error. So let's see what the error is. Configuration is not a intro. Okay, so here they have an issue where they are using the configuration in an incorrect manner. So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight this error. We're going to do add to chat. This is the error I'm getting. Please fix it. All right. So also too, to call out what's great about Cursor, some of this stuff is common knowledge to developers, but for everyone it is not common knowledge. So they do provide descriptions as to what happened incorrectly and what their fix was. And you're able to dissect this and figure it out at all times. So it could be a really great learning tool when you're trying to get into system building and writing code. So we're going to add in that new functionality, and I just want to see the alteration. So we may still get an error here, but let's see. Yeah, sure enough, it looks like it is not fixed still. So we're going to try that one more time. Add to chat. This still not working. All right. So also it is warning us that we may not have the latest version of OpenAI. So I'm going to make sure we pull that in. All right, so we pulled that in, and then let's apply this new code one more time. So I am not seeing. So I'm seeing here that the new config is still in the same manner, but let's give it a try. Let's give it a try here. Okay. All right, so this is not working with this method. So yeah, like you guys saw there, sometimes AI is not perfect. It keeps giving us errors over and over again, and is not running. So if I come into here, I think it's time to look at the documentation. So I will pull up the node documentation on GitHub and just take a look and see what is happening. So let's resolve this in real time. So here's actually a code sample of that. So we can actually just copy this, come back to here and say, okay, we're getting an error about the configuration not being a constructor. Follow this example and update the code accordingly. All right, perfect. So I can, because I already spotted a couple issues here. So number one, the way we imported stuff was different, and the way we've set up our constants is as well different. So let's apply that new update. And it deleted my API key, so I'm going to throw that back in for my notes here. All right. And then I'm going to hit save, and let's try to run this one more time. And there we go. Just like that, it worked. So sometimes the AI that's built into Cursor does not work in the most effective manner. You have to look for external sources or read documentation to figure out how to fix the issue. In this case, that one was fairly straightforward, luckily. We were able to find that quickly. So here, what do we get? We got basically a description about what each of these companies do. So HubSpot is a company that provides comprehensive customer relationship management CRM platform designed to help businesses grow and succeed. That sounds pretty right. 6610 is a company that specializes in enhancing the operations of small and mid-market businesses by leveraging artificial intelligence and automation technologies. They offer tailored digital solutions designed to boost productivity and enable business growth. That sounds very, very good to me. So let's now that we got our descriptions about the companies, let's build out a CSV that we can export from the system. So using the data we gathered above, create a CSV export that includes the following columns: lead first name, lead last name, lead email, company domain, company description. So once again, we have another package there because we do not have a built-in way to export CSVs. So we are going to use the CSV writer package according to ChatGPT here. I'm going to go ahead, like we did before, install that. Once that gets installed, we can apply the code as that's being installed. And let's see the new modifications that have come through. So now we have the CSV writer. This has been imported in. And we have 5 columns that we described here. And we are getting all of the information. We're gathering it. So this should hopefully work. Let's run. Oh, and did not mean to do that. So I'm going to do node. And now it is going through the websites, putting together a description. And a CSV file has been successfully written. So I see here on the left side, there's a brand new file called contacts.csv. I will now pull up the CSV as well on my local machine and open it in Excel. So let me just grab the file. All right. And just like that, we got our file here. So what do we have? We have our lead first name, our lead last name, our lead email, our company domain, and finally our company description. So now you have a utility that you can just use where you can pull in a full list, get a list of details about the company description, and you can transform it to do whatever you want. Rather than pulling company description, you could have had it said, give me a bulleted list of all the pain points this company might have, for example. And the AI would be able to sort of decipher that. I hope you guys learned a lot from this session. This is part 1 of the Sales AI Agent, and we will be building out a lot more utility around this. Like I said before, the code that we wrote here will be located in the GitHub link down in the description. Feel free to download it, manipulate it, do whatever you'd like with it. Enjoy, guys. Good luck.